Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. If you recall, about a week ago, our good friend Mike Triplett from ESPN.com, Saints reporter, was here, and we were talking about draft scenarios, and I told him point blank that if the Saints took a wide receiver at 28, I would throw up on myself. My exact words. Well, I was asked to participate in the KJZ mock draft. That's Keyshawn J. Will Zubin on ESPN Radio. And I was picking for the Saints at 28. And as I looked at the board and who was available, there was one pretty obvious player sitting there at 28 who many think would have gone far higher. And I picked him. With the 28th pick in the 2021 KJZ mock draft, the New Orleans Saints select Kadarius Toney, wide receiver, Florida. Now, what you don't know is that shortly after I recorded that, I threw up on myself. Mike Triplett joins us now. How are you, Mike?
Disappointed.
Because I threw up on myself?
You've got no conviction. You just wanted to use me as a punching bag for the radio buzz it generated last week when deep down in your soul you were just full of it.
I'm not at all. See, here's my question to you. So you went through the NFL Nation mock draft. Do you pick as if you are the Saints, or do you pick who you would take?
For that exercise, I predicted what the Saints would do, that's going to be the excuse, I'm sure, for your pick as well. But yeah, in most of these, I assume when both of us are asked to do these, we are trying to predict what the Saints would do. And sometimes it's the same answer, but sometimes it is a different answer.
So it's 100% what I was doing, because you tell me if you disagree, but if Kadarius Toney is on the board at 28, I think the Saints pick him.
Well, I do disagree because I've done two of these now, but I'll tell you what's funny. I'm doing one in about an hour and a half, similar to the one you did on with Mike Golick Jr. and to do the same thing. And I took Jamin Davis last night in the NFL Nation mock draft. He, of course, is a linebacker. Mm-hmm. I would have taken a cornerback. They were all gone in the top 16. The one I'm doing this afternoon, the top four corners are all gone. Jamin Davis is also gone. And I had three names written down while I was waiting for my pick to do. One was the linebacker, Alusa Kolomoa from Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. One was Jalen Phillips, the DE, and one was wide receiver Elijah Moore. Although Kadarius Toney was my next name on the list if he was gone. So basically, that lets you know when people ask all the time, what position do you think the Saints are going to draft in the first round? It doesn't work that way. It's best player available at a position of need. And I think there are 5 or 6 or maybe 7 positions of need. So top corner is not there. Linebacker is a very big need. I think wide receiver is a very big need. I'd probably call them 2A and 2B. Defensive and defensive tackle are big needs. Quarterback, obviously, we just don't really think that fits at 28. Tight end, there's not going to be one at 28. And frankly, offensive tackle, I don't think is out of the question as a long-term need, even though I'd rank that behind the others. So it's about which player that is widely ranked in the top 20 at one of these positions has fallen. And I think Toney qualifies, and I think a bunch of guys at a variety of positions could qualify for that.
So Mickey Loomis spoke today, and he obviously never discloses anything. The pre-draft press conference to me is one of the most useless exercises. Like, what do you expect the GM to say 24 hours before the draft?
Yeah.
But you've obviously covered this team for a long time. Did you glean anything from listening to him today?
Well, I asked him one question, and you're right that they don't give anything away. Although, I've never known either Peyton or Loomis to purposely put something completely opposite of the truth out there. We are going defense in this draft, and they take it off. I've never remember a case where they specifically, overtly went for subterfuge. And one question I asked him was, I said, in my opinion anyway, that I think they have more holes than usual because of all the roster cuts that they had to make. I mean, they got rid of their number 2 corner, their number 2 receiver, their starting nose tackle, their third defensive tackle, their starting defensive end, their top 2 tight ends, and they have not replaced all of those guys yet. It feels like more holes to fill than usual for me. So I said, this was after he had already asked the question, sort of embracing their aggressive philosophy, saying, yeah, I don't mind you calling us aggressive, that we trade up. Obviously, we like to do that. When we see a player we like, we want to go and get them. And I said, would that philosophy change at all this year because you have more holes to fill than usual and you need that volume of picks, which I think they admitted in 2015. That was sort of a mini rebuild where they have 10 picks in that draft,
Yes.
maybe, I think.
Yes.
And they said we wanted to keep all these picks. And this year, Loomis specifically said, I would disagree with you that I don't think we have a lot of holes. And we prefer quality over volume, and we think this is a hard roster to make. So that was one thing I gleaned from him. I think he could have said, you know what, we have been aggressive in the past, but this year we do value that we have 8 picks in this draft, and we'd like to get a lot of picks in this draft. And he said the opposite. So that doesn't mean they're definitely trading up, but it certainly lends credence to the idea that they may be aggressive again in round 1 of this draft, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them move up.
That was my next question. Do you think they trade up at 28?
I think there's a very good chance because it's their MO. Because even though, like I said, I think they have a variety of holes to fill. You have to move up from 28 to get a definite surefire starter, probably. They can't. You can't go through a mock draft and say, I'm giving them their starting corner in round 1. I'm going to give them their starting receiver in round 2. I'm going to give them their starting tackle in round 3.
Why not? That sounds really good.
You can't guarantee that guys you like will fall. So if there's one you're like, this guy is so good, we can write him in ink as our starting corner or, our starting linebacker. That's the kind of guy you move up for. And I think it's possible when you're at 28 that they want to move up to 21 or 22 to get a guy that they're just like, God, we have no questions about this guy.
As long as it's not a receiver, I'm good with that, Mike.
As we know.
Mike Triplett, he's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. What about the rest of the draft? As we have seen the Saints do such great work in days 2 and 3, quite honestly. People always say that's the interest and the excitement is always in the first round, but rosters are built in days 2 and 3. What do you think about an approach for the Saints over those 2 days?
Well, look, last year I think was the most blatant, glaring example of this trade-up philosophy that we've seen, where they considered Zach Bond at the end of round 1 and kept trying to trade up for him. And they're like, let's trade 2 third-round picks and get Zach Bond. And then the next day, let's trade our 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th and get Adam Troutman. So look, they're looking for value all over the all throughout the draft. I think another thing that they've done, especially since Jeff Ireland has been here, is they have a smaller draft board than most teams. They might have 100 guys, that they really looked into. And they're targeting guys. They are not a team that is just like sit on our hands and when our pick approaches, take the highest ranked player. They're going to go target guys that they really like and that fill some of those positions in need. So I don't think they will fill every one of the positions we were talking about, but I think they're going to get at least 3 guys in the first 3 rounds probably that they're really excited about and have big plans for.
ESPN.com, Saints reporter Mike Triplett. Read his stuff, ESPN.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Mike, we always appreciate the time. A good piece up right now, actually, about the Saints might be able to find that cornerback in round 1. And let's hope that it is, in fact, a defensive player and not a receiver.
I will. Look, to follow up on your last question about later in the draft, I wrote this, I think, before we last talked. I do think they should and get a receiver somewhere in those first 3 rounds. You might want to wait because you see so many good options in round 2 and round 3, and I agree with that. But if they go the first 2 days out of the draft without getting any piece of this deep receiver class, I think that'd be a little disappointing.
I would actually agree with you. Just not a 28. Mike, great stuff as always, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.